Hi there, I'm Anthony from the Hookup Guys, and I'm going to show you how to wall mount a television today. So we're just going to go through a few different parts. First of all, we're going to have a look at how a wall is constructed and what you need to know about that. Then we're going to have a look at how to mount the bracket onto your TV, then how to mount the rest of the bracket on the wall, and finally how to mount the television. So we're just going to have a quick run through on how a wall is constructed. This will help us when it comes time to mounting the TV. So as you can see, this is the back side or the inside of the wall that we're going to mount the TV on. It's made up of a few components. So first of all, we have the vertical studs. This is what we will mount the TV bracket to, and we'll use a stud finder to verify their position when we head back around the front. Studs in this wall are 450 apart, which is pretty standard for an Australian home. And then we have the nogging, which is the horizontal piece of timber here. That's usually halfway up the wall. And the position of that will become important in the future if we decide to conceal our cables within the wall cavity, if that's an option you choose to take. So we'll head back around the front and get started. So now in this section, I'm going to show you how to attach the vertical bars of our bracket to the back of the television. So the first thing I do is go through the selection of bolts that are given to me in the bracket box and check to make sure that they fit the back of our television. I'm using a spacer here because I want our bracket to sit a little bit further away from the TV to give us a bit more space behind the wall. So I'm just going to put the spacer in there and the bolt. I'm just going to do that finger tight just to make sure that the bolt is not going to be too long when it's fully tightened and go through and damage the television. So that one seems fine. So now we can attach the bracket. I'm selecting a hole that makes sure that it's not allowing the bracket to hang below the bottom of the TV and therefore being able to be seen. So I'll put the spacer in behind, and I'll do that for all 4 mounting points. And you can see at the moment I'm just doing them finger tight. Same on this side, ensuring that I match the same hole so that my bracket ends up being level. Now when it comes to tightening, I ensure that the bracket is being pulled all the way up and firm so that I can get a level TV. Tighten those screws up. Same on this one, pulling it up to the top. I've also tied a knot in these pull cords. They're what we're going to use if we need to get the TV back off the wall. I just don't want them hanging out underneath the television and being able to be seen. So now we have our vertical bars attached to the back of our television. So this is one of the probably critical steps that we go through every time we wall mount a television. This really is important and crucial to making sure you get the TV to the right height that you want. So now that we've got the bars mounted on the back of the TV, the next thing we do is get the plate that is designed to screw to the wall. And I'm going to sit that where it will sort of sit if it was actually on the TV, on the wall. So now it's sitting there, and we're going to measure the distance between the bottom of the television and where these top screw holes are. So the easiest way is to put the tape measure sort of in the middle of the screw hole there, and then guide it down to the bottom of the TV. And so I can see that this is 36 centimeters or 360 mil. So that becomes a very important measurement. So I'd suggest you write it down somewhere. So we're going to write down 360 mil, and we'll utilize that in just a couple of ticks when we go to mount the bracket onto the wall. So again, placing the plate where it would go on the bars, and then measuring from the top screw holes, so the middle of the top screw holes, to where the bottom of the television is. So now it's time to start laying out our measurements to find exactly where we want to put our TV on the wall. So I've already measured the height of our television, and our TV from the top of the TV to the bottom of the TV is 660 mil high, or 66 centimeters. So we need to have a look at this wall and work out how high we want to have our television. So we usually suggest with most of our customers that the TV should sit anywhere from 800 to 1200 off the ground, but it is personal preference. So what I would suggest is marking, for starters, 1 meter off the ground. so 100 centimeters, and then getting your tape measure and measuring 66 centimeters above that. So I'm using a pencil. If you use it on your wall at home, it shouldn't mark it. So now I can look at that, and I can see these 2 marks here is where my TV is going to go. And I may sit on the couch or go to where I'm actually going to be watching the TV from, just to ensure that I'm happy with that height. Because once it's mounted, it's very difficult to change that height. So now that we've chosen our height of our TV off the ground, we've decided to go for 1 meter. It's time to lay out the rest of the mounting position. So most people would generally have their TV mounted in the middle of a wall. So we know that this wall is 2.4 meters long. So I'm going to measure 1200 or 1.2 meters from the edge to get the center of my wall. So now I know where the center of my wall is, and I know where I want the bottom of my TV. So the next tricky task, and probably the most important, is to work out the positioning of where you need to mount the bracket, the actual plate that mounts on the wall. So to do that, we take that measurement that we got before, that was from the screw holes of the bracket to the bottom of the TV, which was 36 centimeters or 360 mil, and we add it to however high we have decided to mount the television. So we've decided to mount the TV 1 meter off the ground. So we need to measure 1 meter and 36 centimeters. And that now becomes the center of our wall plate, the center of our TV, and the height of our wall plate. So now it's time to find the studs in our wall so that we can mount our bracket to that fixing point. So we use a stud finder. So we use these Franklin brand stud finders, just from local hardware. We find them very, very good quality and really easy to use. So we simply hold on the wall, we hold the button down in this stud finder, and we keep going across until we can see the light slide up and it shows us where the stud is. These stud finders also show you the width of the stud, which we find very handy. So as you can see, we're dragging the stud finder across the wall, and you see the lights start to light up, and that's where our stud is. I'm just going to mark either side of that. And we do that along the wall for the rest of the way, trying to find the studs. So now we've got the center of our bracket, and we have our position of our studs. Now we've used a level to transfer the height across the wall to match up where our studs are. So now we have this little pattern here. We know that our screw needs to go in these 2 areas. So now we're ready to start mounting our bracket. I prefer to pre-drill these holes. I find it easier, especially if I'm mounting the bracket on my own. So I'm going to pick the center of the stud and right on the line that we've made, which is level. It's 1, 2. So the next step is to actually attach our bracket to the wall. I usually use the screws that are given to you by the manufacturer of the bracket. However, just make sure that they're suitable for your wall construction. If I'm doing this on my own, I find the easiest way is to find out which hole it goes to and just let the bracket hang for the moment. Just try not to mark your wall. It's just much easier to hold. You don't have to be up super tight yet, just enough to hold the bracket. Second one, again, doesn't have to be super tight yet. And now that we've got both screws in loosely, we're just going to make sure that the bracket is level before we tighten up the final bit. So level. Again, don't over tighten these. You will strip the timber out, and you may also distort the bracket. So as long as they're firm and done up well, that's all you need. And so now we're just going to repeat the process for the bottom 2 screws. And that's it. Our bracket is mounted to the wall. So on to the final step, putting the TV on and going from there. Okay, so now for the final step, putting the TV actually on the wall. So I would certainly suggest that you have 2 people to give you a hand. This TV is quite small and light, so I found it reasonably easy to lift myself. Also making sure that the locking mechanism is undone on the back of this TV, otherwise it will struggle to click onto the bracket. You just pick it up, check where the top is, slip it on and lock it. Next thing then to do is just double check that it is level, and if your bracket's level, you should have no problems with your TV being level. And also whether it's in the center of the wall. These brackets are designed to slide, so you can slide the TV from left to right if it's not quite right. Easy as that, and there you go. So now you've got your wall-mounted television.